Hey everybody, this is Nathan Warnock with Marriage by Design. Usually it is my wife and I that do this show, but the better half is feeling under the weather. So if you are watching this on replay, or if you're joining us live just now, if you can offer up a prayer for her, that would be great. She has had a cold for 8 days that is just kicking her booty. And we have a whole bunch of kids running all over the place, as you know, which kicks the booty anyway. So if you're popping on, first of all, pop down in the chat below, because I can't see the people that are joining. I can just see the numbers. So as you jump in, if you can put in the comments who you are, say what's up. Love a chance to address you by name as we kind of begin our conversation. Super excited for our show tonight. First of all, sorry we're about 30 minutes late on the show tonight. One of those things where I got everything ready to go. I'm ready to hit live. Checked the microphone link. Microphone's not working. Just not working. So spent 20 minutes trying to figure out, okay, what is going on with the microphone, and figured out the USB cable that runs from our microphone into the computer, done. Which is, probably about right. We've had it for several years. So had to jimmy rig another USB port to work, but here we are. Half hour late. Thought about saying, we're not going to do it this week, but there's some important stuff I wanted a chance to talk about tonight, and always love an opportunity to connect with you guys. So as you have thoughts or questions about the things we're talking about tonight, love to have you throw those in the chat. So tonight, here's kind of the plan. I want to talk a little bit about the Texas abortion bill. Now, if you pay attention to the news, you may have already heard about this, but I wanted to talk about it just a little bit from a legal standpoint. As many of you know, I'm an attorney by background. So I want to talk about that a little bit. I wanted to share with you, I'm going to try and put it up on the screen if I can manage it, but I'll at least read you a tweet from a doctor in New York that she was addressing to, as if she had daughters in Texas. And I think there's some kind of interesting insights we can get from her thought process on that. And then finally, I want to ask a hypothetical for you to think about, maybe talk about with your family or with your spouse, or whatever the case may be. Something that was raised to me as I was having lunch actually with my mother-in-law, and she raised a question that I've been kind of mulling around in my head, and I'd love to get you guys feedback on it. So that's the plan for tonight. So first of all, talk a little bit about the abortion law in Texas. So if you've been paying attention to this, you probably have heard that, and even if you're not a news person, you probably have heard that Texas passed a bill, the Texas state legislature passed a bill with regards to abortion. And it's been reported that essentially the bill says you can't have an abortion after 6 weeks, which is not actually what it says. So what it actually says is it's what we kind of would commonly call a fetal heartbeat bill. So if you have any kids, we have 4, and every time we would go in, and of course they do an ultrasound, kind of, but it's with a listening machine where you can hear the baby's heartbeat, and it's this really cool opportunity that this all becomes real in a moment, right? So you have this baby growing inside you, or your wife has come to you and said, we're going to have a baby, and it's sort of like this, okay, we're going to have a baby, and then you hear the heartbeat, and it all becomes real. So in Texas, what the bill is that they passed says, if a heartbeat is detected, then you cannot have an abortion. So essentially, more or less, that takes away almost all abortions off the table in Texas, because most women, and maybe this has been your experience, but oftentimes a woman doesn't even know she's pregnant until after the baby has grown enough that it has a heartbeat. And the reason why they're saying 6 weeks is because at the latest, in most cases, you can detect the heartbeat in utero by 6 weeks. And so that's why Texas passed this bold law, and praise the Lord that they did. Abortion is one of, if not the greatest moral atrocity that our country's ever committed. Ever. Greater than slavery, greater than the way we treated the Indian people. And don't get me wrong, Those things, both horrible. And I'm okay saying that, right? As a red, white, and blue-blooded American who loves this country and loves the history that we have in this country, I am certainly okay saying we've done a lot of horrible things over the years in this country, and praise the Lord for His grace and mercy that He's stayed judgment for those things. But none of those things are as wrong as murdering your children in the womb. And we have allowed that for way too long in this country. And so I want to publicly applaud the legislature in Texas for taking a stand on this. And I hope that the legislatures of a number of other states that talk about wanting to stand up for life, I hope that they pass it as well. Nebraska, I'm looking at you first. So follow the lead on this and let's get it done. But essentially that's what it does, is by the time you can detect a fetal heartbeat, abortion's off the table in that case. What's interesting about the Texas bill is if you violate that, it's not actually the state that brings a cause of action against you. So Texas looked around at some of the other laws where essentially they had been thrown out at the appellate or Supreme Court level because the bill was written in a way that would make the woman and or the doctor, the woman who's had the abortion and or the doctor performing the abortion, criminally liable for that. And essentially the courts have frowned on that and said, no, we aren't going to do that. So what the Texas bill did that was clever is said, okay, we're going to take the state completely out of it. We're going to give the private citizens in Texas the right to bring a cause of action against the doctor, not against the mother, because as you can see if you read kind of the debate notes from the legislature, it's pretty clear that they recognize, and I believe they're right, that a lot of women who have an abortion don't even realize the gravity of what they're doing because they're scared, they feel cornered, they've been lied to about what this procedure is, they've been lied to about what it is that's growing in their womb, and so they go through the abortion procedure without even really understanding what the procedure is and what it's doing. So what Texas has done is said, we're gonna take the woman who had the abortion completely off the table, but we're gonna give you a cause of action, Joe and Jill private citizen, a cause of action against the doctor who performs that abortion. So it isn't even a state action, it's a civil action that would be brought from a private citizen against that doctor for performing that abortion. So almost certainly this is going to go up the chain of command, right, to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court already declined to give Texas an injunction to stop the law from being passed completely, so it is passed into law now. So it's going to be fascinating to see next year how the Supreme Court handles this. And if you want my prediction is that it will be a 5-4 decision in favor of upholding the law, and the one of the conservative justices that I think will side with the more liberal justices will be the Chief Justice Roberts, who tends to not like to upset the apple cart when it comes to overturning previous precedent. Meaning Roe v. Wade and the other cases that followed on the heels of it, giving women this completely made up right to health care and right to abortion. It's not in the Constitution. It's not implicated in the Constitution. It just simply wasn't there. The Supreme Court decided to invent that back in that original famous Roe v. Wade case. So it'll be fascinating to see what happens. But I was reading through some news, and I found an article, and let's see if I can put it up here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to or not. Well, I don't know if I can or not, but I'm going to go ahead and read it to you. It is by a doctor. Let's see if I can share the screen now. All right, I don't know if I can or not, but I'll just go ahead and read it. But it is by a doctor. She's a doctor in New York City. And here's what she has to say. This is her. She says her name's Dara Cass, Dr. Dara Cass. At Dara Cass, this is something she posted on Twitter. It says, I spent last night thinking of medical workarounds for this horrific law until it is rectified in the courts. So this is what I would tell my daughter or her friends if they were in Texas. I know this isn't enough, she says parenthetically. I know this isn't enough, but as a mom and doctor, I'm sharing my thoughts. Get on birth control. Now. Any form that is reliable, oral contraceptives, NuvaRing, Norplant, IUD, something now. Use condoms with the birth control. Every single time, no exceptions. And then she says, this is good practice for STI protection anyway, sexually transmitted infection protection anyway. Then she goes on, take a pregnancy test every 4.5 to 5 weeks. Buy a bunch of them now. Get them in bulk and get comfortable taking them. This may feel redundant if you're on birth control, but time is of the essence with this law. Knowledge is your only power. If you find out you are pregnant and you do not want to be, you have very little time to do it. Do not shut down. This will be hard, but you cannot delay. Call me. We'll figure this out together. Understand how to seek a medical abortion. There are ways to safely seek care privately, even if you need to leave the state of Texas to do it. Share this information with your friends. Then she goes on to say a couple of other things. She says, be a resource to anyone who needs it. A lot of people will be afraid. This is a horrific time. We are all scared, and we are sorry we let this happen. I'm not. We will continue to fight, but we also need to be prepared starting today. And then she ends by saying, I love you. Fascinating, that whole tweet. I mean, when I first heard, and this has been reported, I mean, this isn't just, I didn't just dig around for some tweet. This was reported on by at least 3 nationally notarized periodicals, right? The New York Times commented on it. I think the San Antonio Times did an article on it. But the thing that I found fascinating about this is, you remember for a long time there was this, after Roe v. Wade and sort of leading up even to, you know, President Clinton's presidency, President Obama's presidency, there was sort of this charade of, well, we want abortion to be safe, legal, and rare. The thing that I find fascinating about that tweet, it's pretty clear to me that the way she was addressed, because she said, if my daughter and her friends lived in Texas, this is what I would tell them. Well, as a conservative, those things that she told them, use contraception, use a condom, make the guy you're having sex with wear a condom every time, right? These things are things that as conservatives we've been saying forever, right? I mean, yes, I believe biblically that the course of action with regards to sex outside of marriage is don't, right? Abstinence. Right? For the glory of God, for the protection of your marriage, don't have sex before you're married. But I also recognize that the whole world doesn't believe what I believe with regards to God's plan for marriage. So we've been saying, okay, fine, if you don't want to abstain, that's fine, but then use protection, use contraception, do those things so that you don't get yourself in a position where you're just relying on killing the child in your womb to get out of having a baby when you don't want to have one. The thing that's fascinating to me is, as I read that tweet, you know what's clear to me? The plan up until this law for her with regards to her daughters and their friends was, you know what, do whatever you want. If you get pregnant, you can just have an abortion. That's yucky, and has kind of been what people on the right have been saying all along. That really the reason why a lot of people don't want abortion restrictions is because they don't want to have to be responsible with regards to sex. And that's completely unacceptable when the reality of the matter is the one that's going to pay for that then is literally the most innocent among us. Right? A human being that can't even live outside that woman's womb. And she's just winging it with regards to sex because, well, I can just get an abortion if I get pregnant. That's the part that it really is incredible to me that there hasn't been judgment on our country. And I'm not saying that to be an alarmist. I'm saying it because I've read the Old Testament. And if you've read the Old Testament, you read about Israel and Judah. One of the things that the Lord held against them, well, when it got close to the end, right before Israel, the northern kingdom, was taken over by Assyria, and then not too long after that, the southern kingdom was taken over by Babylon, was that they were sacrificing their children. And the Lord went, that's not going to work for me. And so for us, I'm proud of the Texas legislature. I hope others follow, but more than anything, I hope that this Texas abortion bill gives you an opportunity to sit down with your spouse, to sit down with your kids, and talk to them about how are we as a family going to stand up for the most innocent among us, right? How do we as a family stand up for life? How do we as a family stand up for God's plan for marriage and God's plan for family? And hopefully you're able as a family to come together and think of ways that you can stand up for the most innocent among us. Because at the end of the day, we know biblically we're going to answer for the things that we stood up for, and probably more in the United States of America for those of us that have lived here than other places, because we are able to have a direct hands-on interaction with our government, right? We're able to vote. We're able to contact our senators, state representatives, national representatives. We're able to take an active part in our government. And so we'll answer for whether we did or didn't do that and how we did or didn't do it. So wanted to give you something to think about with regards to that. And then the only other thing that I wanted to kind of ponder tonight, because I find it fascinating, was something that my mother-in-law said to me when we were out at lunch last week that I've kind of been mulling over. And what she said is that we were pondering, she was asking me, do I think that there were children in the Garden of Eden prior to Adam and Eve getting kicked out of the Garden of Eden? And what brought this up is we were having this conversation about, do I think that the Lord ever explained to, and does she think the Lord ever explained to Eve, like, this is how childbirth and whatever was going to happen, right? We know it wasn't meant to be a painful thing in the beginning because that was part of the curse in Genesis 3, but had God explained, like, hey, here's what's going to happen. You'll get pregnant and a baby will come out and it's going to be great. And it was raised, well, maybe they had children when they were in the garden before they got kicked out. And the reason why this was raised, and I found this to be a fascinating argument that's had me kind of thinking a little bit. If you read the curse, specifically and I meant to bring my Bible in here and I forgot to, but the curse with regards to Eve, it's a curse that says from now on, with regards to bearing children, it will be done with much pain and agony. And that whole curse probably wouldn't have made much sense to her if she hadn't have had kids before that. That was the argument, right? And so I've been kind of fascinated by that. Ultimately, the Bible's silent on it. In fact, I probably personally lean towards no, just because then after they come out of the garden, then we see the story of Cain and Abel and the lineage of Adam and Eve, although not all of their kids are even put on there. So, it's a fascinating thing to think about. So anyway, wanted to just put that out there. Have you look into it yourself? First 3 chapters of Genesis ending in the fall of man, and tell me what you think about it. Put it in the comments below. Again, sorry I was late getting to this. I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here, let you guys get about your day. Sorry that we were late, and hopefully Andrea is feeling better and she can be back here alongside me 1 week from today. Until then, we got 2 shows coming out for you this week. One will come out bright and early tomorrow morning on Marriage Monday. That show is going to be talking about Apathy Man versus oh man, and I just lost it. And I just did the title of it. Apathy Man versus Contentious Woman. talking about some of the ways in which men and women in marriage can sort of fall to our natural states. So I'd love to have you check that out for more information on that. And then we will be continuing the Armor of God series that will continue coming out on Thursday morning on our Family Friday show, talking about the breastplate of righteousness and how we can teach our kids the breastplate of righteousness while making it cool and helping them to understand a little bit more about what Paul was talking about in Ephesians 6. Until then, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And remember, God is for your marriage. Have a great night.